Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 2nd chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all of Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Gospel of the Lord. When I was a kid, my dad made up a song about 3 cats, and it was sung to the tune of "We Three Kings of Orient Are." And it basically went like this. "We 3 cats sitting on the back fence, Droop and Dork and Recompense, and meow, 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 meow." You have to have some type of filler in there. I think there are more words, and I asked my brother, but he said it was meow, meow, meow. So anyway, and it was a ridiculous song, right? But my brother and I, we loved it. My dad, anybody who's ever met my dad knows, he's sort of a larger-than-life type of character. And so he has always had the gift of turning the traditional into the unexpected, and the predictable into the surprising, and making us laugh and consider something that we wouldn't have considered before. Like domesticated cats crawling around the Middle East looking for and singing to the baby Jesus. It's utterly ridiculous. And honestly, it has nothing to do with what's presented to us in today's Bible story. There are definitely no cats in the story of baby Jesus, or reports of cats stowing away with the wise men. But it got me to thinking, what about the others? You know, the other people and the other animals who saw the star and didn't make it to the edge of the manger. There have to be others, don't there? If this star was so bright, so startling in the sky, and so very compelling that the wise men left everything behind and traveled over hill and vale through toil and danger just to find Jesus, then other people and animals must have seen and followed that star of wonder too. So why do we only have the story of the wise men showing up? And I don't want to sound sarcastic, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come across that way, but there's a large part of me that thinks, well, good for them. I'm glad it all worked out. The wise men went out searching for Jesus, right, and they found him right where the angel promised. Good for them. But I'm telling you that there are way more people who never make it to the manger, never have an epiphany, never know what gift to lay before Jesus, never have an angel point the way. I think that many people get lost. And I don't mean lost in the sense of, "Oh, you poor wayward soul, let me take you to church so then you can be found." No, I mean lost on their way to see the Christ child, lost with good intentions, lost trying their darndest. Those stories don't initially sound like stories of epiphany because they aren't remarkable and they aren't awe-filled, holy, holy night stories. Like the shepherd. They found their way to Jesus, and the wise men found their way to Jesus, and even the little drummer boy, which I know is a total secularization, but he found his way to Jesus, and those are the stories that we get to hear about. But I believe that there are plenty who saw something that night, and many nights thereafter, something which seemed true and bright and full of hope, which compelled them to embark on a journey just for the chance to gaze upon the face of God. But then somehow, along the way, darkness obscured the light of the star. or they made a wrong turn, or their stamina gave out, or their hope began to wane. And they just never made it. Never made it to the manger's edge where the sweetness and peace of God lay. And I believe that there are people like this. I know there are. I have been one of those wanderers who saw clearly for a time and then lost sight of the star and then found the star again and took the longer path and tripped over some things along the way. While I can and do believe and proclaim that God is in the days of sickness and sorrow and in the dark nights of pain and deep longings, in the unanswered prayers and the lost dreams, it is inevitably in those days and nights, which can turn into laboring years, that I get lost, that we get lost, that others get lost. And we wonder, where is that star exactly? And so when I consider the others, I find myself thinking of those wise men and their departures. Their departure from their homeland, risking fortune and reputation. And their departure then from Jesus' bedside, risking their livelihood and their very lives. I find myself wondering about their time away from Jesus, their time in the darkness. You know, it's sort of like we hear on Christmas Day the reading from John when it says, "We are people who have walked in great darkness." Typically, my faith can help me navigate that darkness. But when I feel lost or on the wrong path or abandoned by God, my compass for life seems broken. And honestly, while I know this will sound bad, but I typically try to be fairly honest with you, in those dark times, my reaction isn't, "Oh goody, I can't wait to see what God is going to do here," but rather something akin to, "I'm really ticked off at you," or "I hate you." That's my reaction. I would be very happy to arrive at the manger's edge, but I'm not so happy to arrive on the cross. In the beginning, I was a little bit flippant about the wise men and the ease at which they arrived at the manger to make an important point. Not all journeys bring us kneeling before the manger. Many journeys find us nailed upon the cross. Now, I know this as a theological truth, and you probably do too, right? But as a spiritual truth, it's a hard one to live into and to accept, especially at Christmas. I'll journey to see a sweet baby for sure, but I have little desire to set foot towards the cross. And I wonder if there is any sign in the sky or communication from God that would make me go deep into my fears and pains just to discover God there. I think that God knows that we can find him in the quiet of the night or in the beauty of the lights, but that he will have to journey towards us in the pain of death and the loss of hope. Which is why, from the moment he was born, this sweet baby boy sets his face towards Jerusalem, and he journeys towards the cross, towards the darkness, towards the others lost in the night, towards us, because that's a step that we're not able to take. Every wise man and every wise woman knows that the story of Epiphany isn't about a star or the wise men or even the treasures they brought. Every wise woman and wise man knows that Epiphany is about the journey and the risks we take in seeking truth, in searching for light and discovering God. In the darkness of the night, it's easy to forget how many times God has directed our paths, how many coincidences have transpired to bring us to this very place, how many times our eyes have finally been cleared so that we could see the way forward, and how many times the pain is replaced by unexpected hope. It's easy to forget. And so we must remember that the gift of the manger is that God is with us, and therefore we never journey alone. And that when the journey does lead you to the cross, God is already there. And remember that each step is a miracle of grace, and each misstep is a gift of mercy.